tell you that this reunion had my blood boiling. I mean, I was pissed. Number one, Alyah was not done fairly. And number two, we have Chris being the villain, trying to get his revenge. Guys, anyway, let's just start from the beginning. So apparently, Lydia and Milton, they're happily married so far. And Lydia discussed how she is getting along with Milton's family much better now. And Milton kind of made the joke that the family even prefers her now. Like, so I think that's good. And they showed some videos of them and, how they were living and things like that. So I think that was cute. And I'm kind of glad that they worked out in a sense that, well, of course they had to work out because if it didn't, it would, it would be something else. But I'm glad that they worked out and at least we got a wedding out of this season. Shoot. And also, they also talk about the relationship dynamics, and Milton was talking about how he has a 401k future plan, which is great for them. And one of the issues that they have still is, about Milton's cleanliness, which apparently has improved. So kudos to him. Um, Nick asked Izzy about his financial situation. So now he asks, so what is the reason why you hid things from Stacy? Considering your situation financially, did you think maybe because of Stacy's status that affected you to bring that up? And of course, Easy had to play the victim. He was like, yes, of course that was very intimidating because Stacy's lifestyle is so different than mine. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal, to be honest. And he just kept talking about how it wasn't that big of a deal and how Stacy's family, it was too many factors, but I guess one of the factors was Stacy's family has a different lifestyle than he's used to. And which it makes sense, but at the same time, him saying that it wasn't a big deal, that's definitely a lie. Because why would he do that if why would he not just bring that up if he was able to talk to everybody else? I don't believe it. And I told you guys on the last video, is a gold digger. You cannot tell me otherwise. Eventually, Nick and Vanessa ask, about the dating situation. How Stacy and Izzy, did they date or what happened after the altar? Because we thought, Izzy had such an unconditional love, quote unquote. So we thought that they're gonna continue dating right after the show. But apparently they haven't been dating for a whole year. So right after the wedding, they apparently decided not to talk to each other for like a week or so just to give them, each other some space. And they eventually just didn't talk for a whole year. And they say after a year they met up and they talked about everything. They shared a kiss, but he knew that that didn't take them anywhere. That it wouldn't take them anywhere. So Izzy was like, yeah, in my mind, I know this was over. There's nothing else in between us. And Izzy mentioned how much he was pissed about, the breakup. Because Stacy, uh, she just didn't want to be with Izzy, it seems like. Because Izzy asked her, where do we stand? And he was kind of confused about the status, and Stacy was kind of like, nah, I don't think this is gonna be good for us. So it's kind of interesting because I thought maybe Stacy, because on the wedding day she said she wanted to take it slow. She said she wasn't ready, so she gave the impression that she just wanted to date, right? She just wanted to date, get to know each other more, and continue. But it looks like she was like, nah, I don't want that. And she also mentioned how it was going to be too much pressure because Izzy didn't want to start from the beginning and he didn't want to start all over. So he was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And Stacy was like, she kind of want that. She wanted to start over. And it wasn't appealing for none of them. So they broke up. Now, after that, they introduced Johnnie and Chris. Ooh, so Johnnie and Chris' situation was something else. And I did not know that Chris was actually the villain. Now, guys, the way I was shocked that Chris was quote unquote the new villain, like I was not expecting that because on the pods, Chris seemed such scream. He looked like he was such a good guy, and he even say, I look like a playboy, but I'm actually a sweet guy, lover boy, da 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 da." So he gave that impression that he's just a sweet and kind guy, and yes, and I think, okay, let me tell you exactly what happened. So Chris and Johnny dated after the parts. Chris was the second option, Johnny's second option, and due to that, Chris broke up with Johnny. But then, after they left the show, they decided to date. They decided to date, and then there was I guess, during Johnny's birthday weekend, Chris decided he had to go out of town. He decided to go out of town, but that nigga never came back. So after 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, and then apparently the third week, Chris was literally ghosting Johnny and not saying anything. And then one of Johnny's friends mentioned that that Chris was seeing somebody else. I almost fell off my chair. I was like, there is no way. Sweet Chris is the villain. Honestly, I just feel like Chris looked at the whole situation. He didn't like that he was a safe choice. He didn't like that he was portrayed as the good guy done wrong and still took her back. And he kind of resented Johnny. And for that, he kind of got his lick back. Honestly, he was like, yeah, I'm going to get this revenge because I was actually not done right. Because he didn't even seem remorseful. He couldn't even clearly explain as to why he decided to do that. And when Vanessa asked him, so, you love, you be there and stand by those you love. Yes, that's true, but would you cheat on them? And he was like, well, apparently, yes. He didn't seem like he was remorseful at all about what he did, about nothing. So it's very interesting because it was just whoa. I know everybody's shocked, right? And he eventually apologized and yeah, but I'm giving him a side eye because I was not expecting that from Chris, sweet Chris. Points. So after Johnny and Chris explained about their situation, they asked Stacy about what really happened in the pods and why she was going so strongly at Johnny. And while while Stacy was explaining everything, Chris and Johnny were literally having a whole conversation by themselves. It's kind of like she wasn't even there. They kind of, and that was kind of rude. I'm not gonna lie. I think they knew what they were doing. Like, okay, yes, you guys are talking, but does it have to be while she's talking? I don't get it. And then I guess they started accusing each other. Well, you started, and then they kind of rolled the footage. And at the end of the day, we still don't know exactly who started the fight and who started picking on who. All we know is Johnny was being shady, was talking about Stacy behind their back, was talking about Easy behind his back, and then Stacy called her out on it. But at the same time, the way she came at Johnny was kind of unnecessary because it was, it's like during that time, Johnny was literally not doing anything. She was really like, Johnny, and then Stacy was like, "Is your face okay?" So that was kind of necessary of Stacy part for her to bring that up in that way. Actually, like in the barbecue, she didn't even specifically address it. She kind of just nitpicked some things and didn't really clarify as to, listen, this is what's happening, But she just kind of like started being petty over little things, and that kind of made her look bad. And that's what I would say. And I'm not saying that she's right or she's wrong, but she had her reasons to be upset. But it's been a year, girl. It's been a whole year. And it seems like Stacy is still not over that. And how easy he apologized for the way he came at her because he was very aggressive towards Johnny during that whole party. So he apologized for his behavior, but he doesn't apologize for what he said. So they were both in the same page as to they say what they said, and you know, and Johnny was like, yeah, I commend you for apologizing. Other people, meaning Stacy, didn't apologize. Other people have not apologized. And for me, I'm like, okay, what does she need to apologize you for? I don't understand. You talked behind her back. She called you out on it. It's been a year, so I don't understand really who needs to apologize. If that's the case, then maybe both of them need to apologize. By the way, the way Stacy talked to her, and also Johnny needs to apologize that she talked, uh, about Stacy behind her back. Maybe that's what they need to do. If an apology needs to happen. But it's been a year, girl. Come on. But one thing that wasn't that much of a surprise, though, is that Izzy and Johnny actually shared a kiss, and it was kind of awkward because Nikki and Vanessa were trying to figure out if they had sex, and he was like, "No." They pretty much said they didn't have sex and they only kissed in their gym. Now it was kind of interesting. Um, what's interesting is Stacy mentioned, well, I wasn't surprised because somebody told her, about the situation, and she was like, he's a free man, he can do what he wants, but she didn't expect that from him, like to make up with Johnny specifically because, he talked so much crap about her. So she was like, well, that's so new. It reflects on your character and whatnot. So it makes sense because he was over there talking crap and about Johnny, she's fake, she's this, she's that, and then he went ahead and kissed her. I don't know if they're trying to rekindle things, but that's very interesting. And Stacy called him out on that BS because she was not having it. Next time around, they did introduce Alyah to come and talk about her situation.
Everyone, please, let's welcome her now.
Did mention that, the experience was taken away from her, which is absolutely right.
I felt like I came here to have the genuine love is blind experience, and I didn't get that. I set my boundaries with Lydia when we had the discussion on the couch, and she didn't respect my boundaries.
Lydia says that the reason why she kept talking about Uche was because it was like a release, which I'm like, girl, cut the crap, okay? And then the Nick and Vanessa started talking about why they decided to keep that a secret, why production didn't allow them to spill the beans. And they say that the moment they immediately found that Uche and Lydia were together, they were like, they wanted to send them home, right? But eventually they were like, well, are you guys still, do you guys want to pursue anything? So the moment they found out that they didn't want to pursue anything, they were like, okay, just keep that confidential. So they keep asking the cast members, like, do you think that was a good idea? Do you think that was a good idea? And they came to Alyah and she was like, no, I'd rather know everything. I wish they told me from the jump. Especially due to the fact that Lydia was getting close to Alyah, So for her, of course, she was like, yeah, that wish you told me earlier. And Stacy was talking about, oh, yeah, I think everything just happened how it's supposed to happen. But I didn't like that because it kind of just seemed like there was dismissing Aaliyah's feelings. And it was like everything happened how it's supposed to, but who has to pay for the price was Alyah, right? I didn't like that. It was kind of dismissive, and I think Love Is Blind production know that they messed up, and they're trying to make themselves feel better by asking the other cast, which they literally had nothing to do with it, right? And they just trying to make themselves feel better. Lydia, of course, is engaged, so of course she's gonna agree with the situation. And Alyah, she felt like, and now Alyah looked like she's the bad guy because she doesn't agree with the rest of the group. because everything happened, quote unquote, on how it was supposed to happen. But at the end of the day, her experience was still not the same as she would hope to. Even though, yes, her happy ending is good, she mentioned that she's in a good mindset now, she's in a relationship now. I'm so glad that she got a happy ending at the end of this, but it still doesn't change the fact that her experience was literally ruined. Like the amount of times you see Alyah cry in that Love is Blind was just like disturbing. Okay? She cried so many times. So I just didn't like how they were so dismissive about that. After that, Alyah kind of wanted to clarify things with Lydia. She asked, well, I heard that you're telling the girls that you're gonna meet somebody from the past. And this is what Lydia had to say.
There were things that were said to make me feel as though Lydia did come here for Uche. You told multiple women that you were hoping to run into somebody from your past. We had a conversation one-on-one outside of filming where you told me that you and Uche discussed coming on this show.
Had a conversation of 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, saw the casting. Oh, yeah, I did too. And that was it. I had no confirmation that Uche was going to be there.
Not like Lydia's attitude towards Alyah. She was acting like Alyah was accusing her of something that was so tremendously crazy for her to believe. Like, girl, you literally said to her face that you plan to be there with Uche. And then you start making comments about Uche's lifestyle. You keep talking about Uche. She literally told you that I don't want to keep hearing it. You keep talking about it. I don't want to hear it. And you crossed that boundary multiple times. So now for you to even have that face and attitude, I don't like that. And I had no confirmation. Like, girl, please. You knew he was gonna be there. You knew you were gonna be there, and thank God that you have Milton because, and you can tell like Aaliyah's body language. She looks so uncomfortable. She literally looked like she wanted to cry because nobody was backing her up. Nobody was defending her, and they kind of portrayed her to just seem like she was overreacting, even though she had all of the right to be upset and hurt. I don't like that at all. Okay, and Lydia came prepared with all the right words. I did the best with what I could with the information that I had, but I'm like, girl, you knew Uche was still messy. You knew Uche was your ex, so why did you befriend Alyah? Why did you decide to befriend Alyah even though you knew, okay, let's just say you're not supposed to talk about it, but why did you go out of your way to be friends, not only friends, really close friends with her? That's very weird. And the fact that they didn't ask that question in the reunion, that really pisses me off. Because why didn't they ask that? Why? And now Milton, this is what he had to say about the situation. So Milton was talking about how Uche was actually the issue and not Lydia.
We were never friends. We were never peers. He was interestingly obsessed with my relationship with Lydia.
The thing. So Milton basically said that Uche was the one who is the stalker, who set boundaries, crossed boundaries with him. He was weirdly obsessed with the relationship that he had with Lydia. Now, Milton also defended his wife, as he should, and say, I know my wife's character, but I know Uche. So he was throwing, everybody was throwing Uche under the bus, which is understandable, of course. But he, in a way, he kind of also dismissed Lydia's feelings because everything he was feeling about Uche, it was the same thing Alyah was feeling towards Lydia because Lydia was crossing boundaries, she kept asking and talking about Uche. So of course she's gonna feel like I don't trust this person. Even though they were friends, but after she found out, she kept talking about it and crossing boundaries. So Milton has to understand that that situation was the same but the opposite for um, Aaliyah and Lydia, because they kind of went to the same dynamic, but maybe, who knows, Lydia maybe had good intentions and she didn't want a review, and she maybe accidentally became friends with Aaliyah. But you can still not deny the fact that in a way that statement was kind of dismissive. um but I guess Milton had to do what he had to do. This is what I guess he's Lydia's husband, so of course he's gonna defend her. And I'm glad that Lydia found somebody who is there for her and defending her like that, which I was like, wow, kudos to him for being mature enough to handle that situation in that way. But man, it's sex to Alyah. But thankfully, Alyah found her happy ending. She found somebody that treats her like a queen. So I'm really glad and happy that her happy ending happened for her. So that situation kind of worked out in the way that was supposed to. Introduced JP and Taylor into the cameras next, and of course they went out and they talk about why was he so silent during the time they were dating. And JP kind of mentioned that he was kind of shy. He was shy because the camera was there 24/7. And well, Taylor was like, well, what about when the cameras were off? You know? And to the point that JP, he really didn't have a real explanation as to why he was so quiet.
I didn't know what to do. I was just nervous and freaking out.
What about when the cameras weren't there? We could have talked, communicated.
You didn't want to be there anyway, so you tried to leave every single day.
You did not want to be there.
Yeah,
You
because you
wouldn't
didn't want to be.
communicate with me. You wouldn't talk to me.
And Nick and Vanessa, they're like, so what happens when you get girls like at the bar? Like, how do you talk to them? And he was like, well, normally I have my buddies do that for me.
Generally, I don't. And any women, I have my friends do that. Like, they'll be the icebreaker, and then I'll get to talking after that. But
Which is interesting. But interesting enough, he's dating somebody. Honestly, I don't know how that happened. It did not make any sense to me. The only thing, I feel bad for Tyler because she really wanted things to work, and he kept saying, "Well, if you keep forcing me, that's not how I talk. You kept forcing me to talk." And she was like, "Well, you should have said something, because if I knew," she was like, "if I knew, I would have stopped." So that's that. And yeah, that's kind of what happened, and I'm just glad that they cleared the air and everything. But KP, Captain America, he came with this he came with the socks with his uniform on. I mean, come on now, he doing the most. But that was basically it about the reunion. That, of course, they played their silly, foolish games, and I don't get the point, but I guess it was entertaining for them. But it was very useless questions in there. But yeah, that was pretty much the reunion. I'm just shocked that Chris was the villain in this side. Apparently, Uche was apparently the obsessive guy, and Leah thankfully got her happy ending. But I'm still not happy on how they handle. But this season, I'll commend Nick and Vanessa for trying better and asking the baby question, and they actually ask important questions for the most part, but not, but yeah, I was here for it for the most part. Like, okay, they did a decent job. They could have done a little bit better when it comes to the Lydia situation, but I guess, hey, improvement is improvement. But yes, guys, next, let's connect. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you know when I post. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.